It was just after 11 p.m. when the lights blinked themselves out, leaving Millie dripping wet in the dark. With its dying breath, the shower head cried a river of ice, bathing her in Antarctic cold from every angle. She let out a shriek even their neighbors across the way must have heard, flailing her arms as she drowned in pitch black. Millie shuffled into their windowless bathroom, thinking a hot shower would help her catch some Zs. She was wide awake now. No one was going to sleep tonight. Tearing the palm tree curtains back, she cursed everything and everyone as her feet found the green pastures of their cotton bath mat. A chill cut through her shoulder blades as it dawned on her. The power must be out. Maybe the fire finally had reached them. Millie trudged to the kitchen by the light of her iPhone, holding it aloft like a torch in one hand and taming her mess of snowy hair with the other. Abe was on his cell phone, pacing a hole in the floor. She could tell from the way he was slouching in the moonlight. Bad news. He cradled the phone with one arm like a newborn, talking in a hushed voice like he was lulling the person on the other end to sleep. He was holding it way too close. Millie read on Facebook those things should be held an inch away from your head at least. Radiation or something, she recalled. Millie circled him, pointing at the phone and mouthing, "Who is it?" "Anna," Abe mouthed, placing it on the kitchen countertop and put it on speakerphone. "Mom, Dad, you have got to get out of there. Like right now. The winds are seriously kicking up. I saw on Twitter the fire is coming straight for you. You have to go. Now." "Sweetie, we haven't seen any evacuation orders yet," Miley said, her hands clasped over her heart. "My app tells me it's supposed to still be 10 miles away. We'll be okay. Your father even cleared out all the leaves in the yard for once." Abe leaned in closer. "We have the car all packed, honey. We're ready to rock and roll down here. Cal Fire's working overtime to put this sucker out. Probably gonna be all over before anything happens here. How's school? Seattle treating you right? When are you coming down for Thanksgiving? I got this great new flat screen." Anna wasn't pleading anymore. "You guys, you don't understand. Get in the car. Now. Honey, Abe spotted the tiny red glow on the horizon from the kitchen window the second Millie did. Dumbfounded, they watched it blossom into a riot of fiery, angry colors soaking the oak-studded foothills in flames. It was like hell on wheels, and it was careening toward their house like a runaway train. It was time to get in the car and outrun the end of the world. Outside, the fall winds were tumbling downslope like a dry hurricane, breathing fire onto the Sacramento Valley. They're called Diablo winds in Northern California. Basically hot air blowing in from the Bay Area, flowing up and over the mountains. Deadlier than the usual variety in Silicon Valley. The wind chimes on the back patio threatened to fly off into the night as Millie snatched their protesting Siamese from her tree. No time to squeeze her into a carrier. She would have to wrestle with Sagwa all the way to Chico and buff out the scratches later. Abe had just enough time to throw on his bomber's jacket and grab the keepsake box by the door, full of things they didn't care to see all the time. Yearbooks, photo albums, a trophy or two, irreplaceables and must-haves. The legals were sitting in a safe deposit box in Chico. Abe grew up in L.A. His dad always told her, "Fill up when you get to a half tank. Pumps won't be working after an earthquake." The Saturn wailed and shuddered as it peeled out of the cul-de-sac, smoke pouring from the wheel hubs like dragon's breath. Abe gripped the steering wheel with all 10 fingers, grinding his teeth like he did in his sleep. You couldn't hear it amid the screaming rubber. 6 inches of glass and metal were all that separated them from the nightmare racing down the road. Dead, golden grass equaled kindling this time of year in Northern California. There was miles of it behind them. Tonight, it was no better than a lit fuse. Millie had nothing to grab onto but the 14 pounds of cat pounding against her chest. The old girl fell straight to the floor when Eb slammed the brakes, so hard it practically punched them both in the gut. There, lying right in front of them, was their death knell. Sprawled across State Route 99 was what used to be a grand old oak tree. No way around it. Abe beat the steering wheel with both hands, cursing it and stroking his thinning scalp. "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" Millie asked him on loop, waiting for an answer she knew they weren't going to like. She buried her hands beneath her sleeves as they exchanged glances. The thought crossed their minds at the same time. Then they both said it. The pool. The skies were raining smoke and ash by the time they pulled back home. It was hot, as stifling as their honeymoon in Cancun. The towering inferno behind them was stampeding down the hills and doing laps around the block. Above them, the tree line was lit up like Roman candles in July. They moved to Valley View Drive for the quiet. The cul-de-sac of red, white, and blue ranch houses was always alive with the silence of old money. Retirees collecting their pensions, cashing in their Social Security, cracking open their nest eggs for a priceless view of the hills. Tonight it was abandoned. Jan and Bobby were boating in Florida. Mike and Alice were back east watching the grandbabies. Don was picking up his new heart in San Francisco. Millie and Abe retired to their half-acre lot of stucco and brick after Union Pacific Railroad said adieu to its eldest Carmen and hello to a stock buyback. They stayed busy. He painted. She wrote her memoir. Would-be grandparents in an airport novel. Their L-shaped box was like their sunset years. Simple, generic. Weekend trips to Home Depot kept the place looking tidy, but it would never make the cover of Architectural Digest. It came with a flagpole, a white picket fence, garden gnomes, Hallmark Channel Americana. Don spent his cop pension keeping up with the Joneses. That meant building a Roman pool in his backyard for the missus, complete with checkered blue tiles and vinyl liner. Chic minimalism in the boonies. Sagwa leapt out of the Saturn the minute Millie swung open the door. She disappeared into the bushes before her humans could nab her. The flames were closing in as they raced to the 1,200 feet of submerged concrete in Don's backyard. Behind them, theirs had already caught fire. We're going to get into the neighbor's pool. Should we do this? Millie asked the 911 operator as she gave the address. Get anywhere safe, the dispatcher said. We'll be in the pool. Millie blurted out so fast the words ran together like one word. That's where we'll be. Get anywhere safe, ma'am, the dispatcher repeated. Abe gave Millie a leg up over the rotting fence dividing the yard from theirs before he clawed his way over the wall of boards and splinters. When he made it over to the other side, Millie was kneeling over the deep end farthest from the house, wearing only a thin tank top and pajama bottoms, her shoes and socks lying in the grass. She was breathing heavily, hands clutching her knees like she had just run a marathon. You've got to calm down, girl. You can't go underwater and hyperventilate. Abe dropped his pants and threw his jacket. Wearing only a t-shirt and his boxers, he turned to Millie. Jump! Hold up! Millie said. The water's freezing. Let's see what happens. Too late. Casa Don went up in smoke and the big shade tree above them along with it. The big old oak's brittle, brown limbs erupted in embers. Beneath it, the aging railroad ties framing the concrete steps to the pool ignited. Millie jumped for her life into the ice bed, bidding her good night. Feet first. I shut. Fingers curled into a fist. The vicious cold lit her nerves on fire. Then everything went dark. When Millie came to, the world was out of focus. She flailed her arms like someone sinking in quicksand, swallowing mouthfuls of the Sacramento River. Two brawny arms pulled her to the edge. I got you, Abe said as if he needed to. The thick bifocals perched on her nose were drifting to the blackened bottom of the pool 6 feet below where a mass of soot, leaves, and oakwood was gathering. Don's house was aflame like a chestnut held too long over a roaring hearth fire. Flames were traveling up the walls like a column of termites, sinking their teeth into every beam. What was left of the roof jutted from the house like oven-baked ribs, broiled, blackened. Well done. Done was the word crossing Millie's mind as she slapped herself awake. She wasn't dreaming. A flock of embers sent them under for as long as they could hold their breath. 30 seconds, 20 seconds, then only 10, over and over again. When they surfaced, Millie huddled beneath Abe's clothes, holding them aloft in the air above their heads like makeshift umbrellas. Millie shivered beneath the damn t-shirt Anna bought him. Old sure beats dead. Millie glanced up at the moon as they treaded water, hoping for a glimpse of morning. The big round pearl just dangled in the same place against the midnight. How long does it take for a house to burn down? Off in the hills, explosions cut the air like a war zone. Propane tanks? Ammunition? All night long, Millie thought someone would come to get them. It was always her and Abe, like it always had been. Millie shuddered as if she was coming apart, her hands and feet a dark shade of blue. She felt Abe's eyes on her as he locked his fingers through hers. "Excuse me, I have a question and need a woman's advice," he asked. Millie sobbed and laughed freezing tears as a ghost of a smile haunted her face. "Yes? What is it? Let's say I see a really cute girl. Do I go up and talk to her? Or is that too direct?" No. You should absolutely go talk to her." "Hi, I'm Abe. What is it like to be the most gorgeous person in this room?" he said, handing her an imaginary microphone. Millie shook her head. "Stop it. I'm married." "Well, that's just great. What's he like?" "He's a real card. He's someone who's always roping me into the craziest things. Things I never thought possible. Raising 3 daughters. Writing a book." "How long have you been married?" "Oh, 40 years now." "Why'd you say yes?" "Well, I didn't. I said no. And I said it again. I said it 4 times until I said yes." "Why?" "I was scared. I was 19. I was pregnant." He made me laugh when I wanted to cry, so they kept swimming in the moonlight, clutching hands, waiting for the end. The Sacramento Valley met the sunrise wearing sackcloth and ashes. The woods are bare, naked. Below them were the smoldering ruins. Post-civilization. Legend has it the Sutter Buttes of Northern California are where life begins and ends. The Maidu and Winton peoples tell stories of how the small mountain range gave us the world. Sometimes a falcon spirit pulled them out of the water or darkness or chaos. Other times, the buttes were where the Earth Maker rested after shaping the world. The gold rush stripped the land bare, smothering it with concrete, asphalt, and the fumes of Winnebagos. Still, life finds a way. Ashen trunks reveal their secrets in the sunlight. A green leaf hangs among the burned things dangling from their outstretched arms. 2 people pull themselves from the depths of a man-made lake, the last oasis in the valley. Their only lifelines to the outside world are a puddle of glass and plastic lying beside the deep end of the pool. No matter, the batteries would have been dead by now anyway. Millie and Abe walked through the ashen-gray landscape of their cul-de-sac in a daze. Don's house is a smoking crater. Their own home is a stack of elaborate twigs woven around a chimney. They're both alive, living the first day of their second life together. The silence is deafening. There are no birds, no airplanes flying overhead. There's nothing to see on the horizon but ash and soot, save for something that rises its head above the charcoal-colored rubble. It's a crimson bauble, still cold to the touch. Its glittery metal hook shimmers in the sunlight. On it reads, "Baby's First Christmas." Finds its way into Abe's hands. Then Millie's. They cradle it in their hands like a new life in this wicked world. Some powers given them another day in paradise. Next story, I wasn't surprised when they told me Danny had vanished from sight at the retreat. It felt inevitable ever since he embraced meditation to escape his everyday existence. Sure, life can be tough, but I felt forsaken, jettisoned like cargo from a sinking vessel. Christy had spotted the signs and suggested we kept diaries during my pregnancy. "Trust me, darling," she'd said, knitting her brow. "Journaling will keep you both sane." As a mother of 4, Christy said it had saved her marriage time and time again. ******, I discovered Danny's diary amongst the belongings they'd recovered from his room. His entries were extensive, full of heartfelt observations about our life together and his attempts to reconnect. He'd scrawled his final entry in pencil, and it had the desperate air of a rant. He'd written about how the hearts of long-dead stars had created the ingredients of life and assembled into temporary sentient structures, and how everything will decay into darkness. Head outlined his preparations for realigning himself with the transformative power of universal flow. God only knows what had happened to him after that concluding voyage of self-discovery. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Danny graduated 5 years ago with a top engineering degree and, like so many of his high-flying contemporaries, entered London's glittering financial sector. However, his impressive career trajectory halted when Stratton, his line manager, put the team on gardening leave with a year's mandatory non-compete clause. It wasn't Stratton's fault. Per SC Omega Capital's head office was relocating to Hamburg, and it made sense to employ the local talent. It took 6 months of unemployment and over 300 mail shots of his CV before I noticed any change in Danny. I recall waddling upstairs one evening and discovering him on the edge of our bed. He was staring at the bedroom wall, as if pondering an enigmatic Rothko canvas in a deserted art gallery. I sat beside him, nursing my baby bump, and stroked his cheek with the back of my hand. "You could do with a shave, Dan," I said. "What?" "Oh, right," he said, shaking his head. "There's a mixed leaf salad and grilled salmon downstairs." "Sure, love," he said, flashing a brief smile. Danny looked bleary-eyed, as if I'd disturbed his hibernation and that devilish twinkle had faded. "I'll be right down," he said, dilating his nostrils. The fish had congealed, and the salad was lifeless by the time he joined me. "You look awful, Dan." "You're too kind," he said. "Is there anything I can—" "No, love," he said, biting his lip. "I'm not myself, but it'll pass." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. My maternity leave should have been straightforward. A leisurely year of kicking back and nest building. However, it didn't work out as planned. Both Danny's elderly parents died within a month of his redundancy, and with one thing and another, life conspired against us. Perhaps if we'd both had full-time work, we'd have been too busy to worry. But who knows? I muddled through, but Danny began creaking like a neglected old bicycle. The lack of routine impacted on his motivation, and he piled on the pounds, snacking between meals. We'd always enjoyed exercising outside, but Danny's jogging shoes gathered a conspicuous layer of dust, and he found other ways to distract himself at home. Fair enough, I couldn't go for a run, but it was irksome seeing him fritter away his time. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I could use some help around here. Dan, I said, leaning against the door frame in my scruffy denims. It's not a self-cleaning flat, and the nursery needs a lick of paint. The fumes always catch my throat and make me nauseous. Love. Dash. You're joking, right? Well, you know what I mean. What? Not complex enough for you, Mr. Cleverclogs? Give me a break, he said, turning back to his laptop. I guess pregnancy was going to be tough, but not this tough. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Dr. McGregor, our local GP, was an enterprising Scot who'd exchanged a surgery of oil riggers in Inverness for the discerning residents of affluent West London. He was a no-nonsense chap who told it like it is, which amused our well-heeled neighbors in Chiswick. Despite his brusque manner, the old curmudgeon winced in pain when I disclosed both my miscarriage and Danny's mental health issues. He offered helpful advice and suggested joining a women's support network for companionship. Danny went into a sharp decline after our loss, and I arranged an appointment for him, thinking he needed help. However, Dr. McGregor held no truck for Danny's lack of physical ailments, and his request for medication left him testy and irascible. Pull yourself together, man, he'd said, crumbling amber leaf tobacco into his pipe. Is there nothing I can take, Doc? We'd assumed a course of antidepressants would work, but he refused Danny's request, preferring a self-help program and a hefty dose of tough love. Grab yourself a pair of boots, he'd said, drawing pungent fumes from his smoldering cauldron. What you need is lots of fresh air and a dog to exercise every morning. There was no further discussion. We looked at each other, aghast. We're done here, he said. Next. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The day we rescued a dog from the animal sanctuary changed our home life forever. It took a quick call and 15 minutes to register interest and explain our circumstances. Did we have enough space at home? Yes, and we live next to a park. Did we have any small children? No, alas. Could we rehome a dog in 7 days? Yes, that'd be perfect. Warren Broff, our rehoming manager, visited us within 48 hours, and before we knew it, we'd adopted a bull terrier named Bobby. I admit it wasn't our first choice of breed. However, the encounter at the dog's home was both amusing and unforgettable. Bobby's enthusiastic tail wagged like a metronome set to 300 beats per minute. How could we resist that package of pure joy or the rough velvet tongue that licked our astonished faces? Warren emphasized Bobby's friendly nature. His unique coat with its brown, beige and white camouflage markings, and the winning smile that went from ear to ear. Was Bobby's arrival a catalyst that changed Danny's life, or did it just coincide with an inexorable sea change? I'll never know for sure. Danny's demeanor changed from the first day they walked round Gunnersbury Park. Bobby dragged him out of the house every day, which elevated Danny's spirits. However, there was something awry. Between excursions, he'd wander upstairs and drift off into an unresponsive state at his desk. I'd call out to Danny, wait in vain for a response, and discover him in a stupor, listening to whale sounds with Bobby curled up between his feet. If I hear any more ambient music, I'm going to lose it. Danny, don't be like that, love. I'm just trying to relax. You need to get a grip. You're falling apart. I'm fine, love, he said. Take it easy. Actually, you're not fine. Later, Danny muttered his apologies and claimed he was decluttering his thoughts and experiencing the moment. The reclusive behavior he put down to changing his ethos. I'm resetting my mind, he said. Dr. McGregor disclosed Danny had fretted about his missed career opportunities and worried about future employment prospects. I need to de-stress and accept I'm enough, Danny said. We both need to appreciate that we have enough. Enough is enough, I told him. You need to focus on our relationship before it falls apart. *****, Danny engaged with Dr. McGregor's exercise regime and it improved his mood. Bobby would fetch his lead from the shelf by the front door and off they'd trot. As the weeks went by, I noticed their walks extended in duration. In fact, they went for such lengthy walks that I suspected an affair. Maybe dog walking was a cover story and exercising Bobby was an excuse for a tryst? I remember scribbling my suspicions in my diary and wrote about an imaginary love-bombing yummy mummy leading him astray. We'd never had problems we couldn't discuss with candor, so I reasoned there must be some other explanation. Danny's flirtation with mindfulness concerned me more than anything else. I found the idea of living in the moment an alien concept and suspected it was Danny's way of abdicating responsibility for household chores and utility bills. Rather than pacing around London's parks, perhaps Danny needed an interest nearer to home? Maybe a venue where I could keep a watchful eye on his antics? My old friend Christy suggested Celia's yoga and meditation class. You've no idea how relaxing it is, she said. You have to try it, darling. ****. A week later, I drove Danny and Bobby to the Portobello Fitness Center where they were greeted by their instructor's hooded eyelids and careworn smile. Celia Palace? Danny asked, clutching Bobby's lead. You're just in time, she said, ushering them inside with a leathery hand and a forearm inscribed with inky blue symbols from esoteric jungle retreats and pilgrimages to hilltop temples shrouded in clouds. Celia tied back her thick gray locks and rolled out a couple of mats for them with a mild caveat. We don't want any distractions this evening, she said, stroking Bobby's forehead. Clearing our minds of worldly matters requires a concerted effort. Celia needn't have worried. Christy told me that Bobby was a well-behaved and a soothing presence, adored by all. His bright little eyes sparkled as he watched the lycra-clad students contorting their limbs and pretended to ignore Danny decanting the contents of his fractured mind. Jenny said that Danny had coped well with the exercise routine and followed all of Celia's commands. Her only concern occurred at the end of the cool-down period as everyone listened to the ambient tones rippling over their resting limbs. Danny had closed his eyes as instructed and appeared to lose consciousness. He remained motionless as his fellow pupils departed to Bobby's concern. He padded over to Danny after some enthusiastic sniffs, revived him with rough tongue slurps. Wow, said Celia. You're lucky to have your companion on hand. I was preparing for mouth-to-mouth back there. I don't know what happened to me, Danny said. One moment I was awake and then I imagined falling through space and dissolving into a giant supernova. We all originate from exploding stars, she said. It's all about letting go and allowing your body to reach out for its singularity. That sounds ominous. You'll understand everything once you've been there. Danny. That's not possible, dash. Being there is believing, Danny, she said. But don't take my word for it. Celia plucked a card from her bum bag. Call Ellis on this number. What's an astral projectionist? Ellis runs an institute for out-of-body experiences. It's a retreat. You'll achieve your singularity and take the ultimate step on the journey to realizing transcendental harmony. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Danny returned from his yoga class in a trance-like state. I couldn't get a word out of him as we drove home. He plodded upstairs, with Bobby tiptoeing behind, and flopped down on our mattress. Danny wasn't floating away from life as much as relinquishing his threadbare moorings. It was like watching an untethered hot air balloon succumb to a gentle updraft and ascend in silence while its negligent crew remained asleep. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, he told me about the retreat Celia had recommended. What do you reckon, love? Well, I don't fancy it myself, so it's up to you. It might help me relax. In that case, go. Danny hugged me like a 3-year-old child on Christmas Day and said I was very understanding. He couldn't contain himself and called the institute to plan a weekend break. It was like having the old Danny back again. However, I couldn't share his enthusiasm. I'd had my fill of ambient tracks and wind chimes. Thank you very much, and I had serious misgivings. In a universe where entropy dictates eventual outcomes, a weekend discovering the art of falling apart didn't sound like a perfect place to unwind. I wasn't honest about my feelings, however, I didn't object. I hoped he'd learn from his mistake, come home to me and forget about his obsession. Of course, now I wished I'd said, no, Danny, don't go. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. When I drove Danny and Bobby to the retreat last week, I never thought I'd return in a panic to collect a box of his belongings and our dejected dog. Ellis, the manager, greeted me at the front gate with a salesman's broad smile and proffered a soft, clammy handshake. He invited into his oak-paneled office and gestured towards a deep tufted settee, asking if I was thirsty. I requested a black coffee and sank into the antique leather as he perched on his solid oak desk and barked an order into a gray plastic intercom. Before I forget, he said, holding a chewed-up dog collar and chain at arm's length. You'll need this for your delightful bull terrier. He wouldn't let us touch your husband's suitcase and went berserk when my assistant picked up his shoes. That doesn't sound like Bobby. I can assure you he put up quite a fight before the vet sedated him. That's all very well, I said, frowning as he handed me the leash. But where's my husband? Where's Danny now? Danny isn't on the premises at the moment. On the phone, you said he was missing, as if he'd gone for a walk. Well, yes, Ellis said, choosing his words. Gone astray is an apt description. DSNY mentioned something about out-of-body practices. Didn't he tell you we're an astral projection institute? In that case, where can I find my husband's body? It's not simple to contain an empty body. My dear, you don't know then? Not exactly, but don't worry. I'm not worried. I didn't lose him. I promise you he'll wander home. You've got to be joking, right? Lost souls have an acute sense of self-preservation. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I crunched my way across the driveway to our vehicle, carrying a box of Danny's belongings and the battered suitcase. Ellis muttered vague promises about reporting the incident to the authorities and keeping me in the loop. I still couldn't believe what he'd told me as his assistant placed Bobby, asleep in his wicker basket, on the back seat. When the hefty cast-iron gates clanked shut behind me, I imagined there'd be no recourse to a lawyer. What could I say? My husband paid to get lost. I'm sure they'd laugh and say it serves him right, or he got his money's worth. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The phone didn't ring, and there was no sign of Danny, despite praying for positive news. There was work to do in the house, and I distracted myself by giving our home a spring clean. The whole incident was upsetting, and I felt isolated from our friends and remaining family. Christy was beside herself with guilt for suggesting Celia's class, and Celia was stoic. She shrugged off the outcome. What was meant to be would happen for the best, she said, nodding. That's helpful, I said, biting my lip. I heard nothing from either Ellis or the authorities as the days trickled past until the following weekend. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On the Sunday evening, a week after Danny's departure, I heard a rattling noise downstairs just after turning in for the night. I clutched my mug of hot chocolate with both hands in the half-light and held my breath. I heard Bobby's claws scurry across the floorboards towards the front door. His distinctive whine reminded me he needed a walk first thing. But then I heard his chain rattling as he tossed it back and forth between his jaws. He whined again. Then I heard him scratching the front door's wooden paneling. The poor beast must be imagining things, I thought. Then I heard him scamper across the wooden flooring and leap into the front room below. A bead of sweat ran down my cold forehead. Silence reigned like a vengeful tyrant. I strained to hear Bobby. All was quiet again. I placed my drink on the bedside table without a sound and pulled my quilt to one side. Tight-lipped and holding my breath, I swung my legs to one side. My bare feet settled on the carpet and I skulked towards the open bedroom door. Apart from a few canine snuffles, there was no sound coming from the lounge. I assumed Bobby had found a comfy spot and recovered from his mad moment. I continued my path until I could lean over the banister rail and get a glimpse of him. Sure enough, Bobby was asleep and curled round Danny's shoes beside the sofa. However, it wasn't Bobby that caused me to catch my breath. Danny was lying on one side in his boxers, and his regular breathing suggested a peaceful slumber. He was there all right, but covered in scratches, muddy smears and bruises as if he'd been running blindfold through a forest at night. Other than the obvious superficial marks, he looked no different. Same old Danny. Typical, I thought, listening to him snore. He comes back when all the work's done.